Mars is stationing retrograde,
Hmm.
and we've been looking at this for a couple of months, knowing
Mm.
this is coming to us. Um, this is Mars going to be very impactful on its agenda of what it's trying to set out to do in Gemini, because it's spending its entire retrograde period, the shadow period and the retrograde period in Gemini. So if this is in a house that's important for you, this is where you're feeling it the most.
Mm.
And this is going to bring possible weakness, lack of energy.
Yeah. And,
Uh,
Mars wants to go forward. Mars is action and drive. And, Mars is fast and hasty and, you know, can be violent and all that. But it's got to go. It's like, no, we can't go. We can't do that. We've got to go back and do this first. And, Mars isn't, you know, you, impatient kind of martial type people. They kind of want to just do it. And it's like, no, 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 come back and do this. You can imagine how well that goes down. So,
and Mars is when it's in a detriment or if it's down a peg and it isn't, the full force of Mars. Mars can actually manifest to being a very good planet to get things done.
mm,
When it is retrograde, it does it goes on, it walks down the darker side of the street. So it's brutality. It's not the more positive. It's not walking in the positive light. It's more in the shadows, and not by shadow retrograde. It's more in it manifests darkly. It's not the positive things that we can see from Mars. And Mars can have some positive aspects to it, but when it's in retrograde, they're very, very, very few and far between.
hmm. I think this can lead to a lot of frustration, plans, things you want to do with regard to whatever house Gemini is in your natal chart. There's going to be frustrations and just setbacks, and it's just like, two steps forward, one step back. Sometimes it's going to feel like one step forward and two steps back. Tempers may be frayed, but it's just got to be done. There's no getting away from it. And sometimes you want to rush ahead and do something and you're all excited and you're kind of like, yes, yes, come on, just let me at it. But, sometimes actually taking that time out, being forced or made to go back and review and, reanalyze different things, you can actually come out with a better plan. So,
Knowing the energy is on its way, you can hopefully manage it,
hmm.
and don't make plans to, I don't know, what would you use Mars for? For your drive. If it's a sensitive area to get something to go, might not be a good time to do it at the end of October.
Yeah, I was just thinking we should possibly do something on, what you can expect for Mars retrograde in Gemini through the houses. But yeah, like, okay, for example, it's in my sixth house and Mars is cutting. So quite often associated with surgeons. Maybe you have surgery planned, but for whatever reason, there's delays, somebody gets COVID, the doctor gets COVID, or this happens or that happens. Maybe it's put aside for whatever reason, there might be setbacks. It just depends what house it's in. Like 10th house, that could be, actual, physical energy and drive, depending on what your career is. If you're somebody that does something very physical, if you're an athlete or you're, what do they call it, labor hire, very physical jobs, maybe you actually suffer an injury at this time, which means that you actually can't perform your job. If it's I'm going to stay away from the second house because I know that's where Donna's got it going through her second house. But like, whichever area, Mars can be physical energy, but actually kind of putting energy into something that's, I'm going to say paper based, like, which is more Mercury. But I mean, if your job requires you to, say, for example, what we're doing here, it's all very quite mercurial because we're on the internet. It's, blogs, it's websites, all that sort of thing. But it's still work, and it's still, you have to have that drive to do that,
Yeah, yeah,
and it can be fights, it can be violence, it can be all those things, but yeah, it can just be pure
absolutely.
energy. That's what
Yeah.
I think of Mars. It's kind of pure energy and ambition and drive. I actually have Mars retrograde in my natal chart, and you know it's kind of like they say with it natally, it's kind of internalized. You're not kind of fighting with everybody else. Mind you, I do that, but but it's kind of like your biggest battle is kind of almost,
Within.
yeah.
It's
And
it's it's impulsive. Mars in retrograde is more impulsive than it usually is.
I
And
believe that.
and when you're acting in a rash and
Mm. Well, I was thinking motivating yourself, and it depends what planets, what sign it's into, how that's going to manifest, and whether it's in good condition or bad condition. But it's kind of like, I personally feel, for me, that Mars retrograde is kind of like I should be pushing myself a lot more, but there's kind of almost a reticence occasionally.
oh, a stuckness.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's just kind of like, it's just different. But I mean, it's all I've known, so perhaps not as assertive or whatever. But some people would say you have no problem with that.
Oh,
You push me, you'll find out.
yeah,
But yeah, it's kind of like, I kind of think of it, it's just not working at full capacity, sort of thing.
that sounds very reasonable.
Mm. But it might be a little bit different with the transits. I'm going to read up on that. I've got a book by, I think it's Erin Sullivan, about the retrograde planets, and see what she has to say about it.